Podcasting from Sacramento, California, the Big Tomato. This is the IronCode Show, a weekly podcast about peak performers and the secrets they use to create success in business and their personal lives. Hear interviews with special guests, top performers from around the world. And now, here's your host, coach, author, and IronMind performance expert, Rich Greene.
Hey, it's Rich Greene. It's Rich Greene, and welcome to the IronCode Show. Man, I tell you, I have a very special guest today, one that I think you're really going to enjoy. And, she's an interesting woman. The first time I saw her was an event, and she was up on stage, and I'm not gonna tell you what she did, but I was riveted. And then as I started to hear her story, it grabbed my heart. And I tell you, she's a person that is so full of caring and love, and her experiences have allowed her to help a lot of people. I'd like to welcome Linda Shively. Welcome, Linda.
Thanks, Richard. I'm so happy to be here today.
Well, I'm glad to have you. And we're going to be talking about dragons, right? And some other things as well.
Yes.
I think the dragon thing is so fascinating, and I'm not going to spoil it for the listening audience or for those that are watching us here. But I would really love it if, I kind of set you up for how I saw you, but I didn't want to share it with everybody. Would you be willing to share sort of your story about, how you start things off and how you got started in this? Would you be willing to share your story about how you got started and what you do, and then maybe just tell us a few things about, how that affected you and how you're able to turn your story into something that is really special for a lot of people?
It was back in December of 2005. It was the middle of December, and I had to make a really tough decision. I was in a marriage that was not going well, and I had to figure out how to get out with my severely handicapped 3-year-old daughter, Jessica. Jessica is the light of my life. She has so much joy. She has this twinkle in her eye, this mischievous grin, and the ability to wrap anybody around her little finger. She also has a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, which is a progressive neuromuscular disorder. And it affects her ability to breathe, her ability to swallow, her ability to move. And she's able to drive around in a power chair with the strength of her index finger. And with that strength, she would zoom around, going to preschool, even though when she was just a year old, or when she was just 3 months old, they said she wouldn't survive to her first birthday. The marriage was, I felt I was always walking on eggshells and thinking, oh, if I do everything right, it'll be okay. Well, that's kind of impossible to do everything right. And no matter what I did, it was stressful. And I would get yelled at for things that I didn't really do. And I knew it wasn't a safe environment for me or for raising my daughter. So on a Tuesday afternoon, I brought Jessica home from preschool, put her down for a nap. I looked at her nurse and I said, you pack her medical equipment, I'm gonna pack her clothes and her toys. As soon as she wakes up, we're gonna escape.
Wow.
It was a flurry of activity while she was napping as we packed. And then we drove off. Exactly 2 weeks later, 2 days after Christmas, I held Jessica in my arms as she took her last breath and died. I struggled to make sense of it. I lost my marriage. I lost my daughter. I lost my reason for being in a heartbeat. And I struggled with that for nearly a decade. But then I finally realized there was one missing component, one missing key that I hadn't had. And that missing key, when we have it, we love it. But when it's gone, nothing seems to work. And that's joy.
Mm.
And Jessica had brought me so much joy, and I had let that disappear. And when I realized that, things started to work. And that is that secret ingredient that we all need in life and in business. And you kind of alluded to those dragons. And so when I talk about this, I talk about in life, we have joy-stealing dragons that keep that joy from us. And I'm going to talk about them, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I need to recover first from that story because,
Yeah.
It's really moving. And, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. But again, I know you, and I know what you've been able to do with it, and it's so amazing. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about the whole dragon thing, first of all, and I'd love to hear more about the getting the joy back. What's the issue with joy? I heard you say both in a personal life and in our business life, and is not having joy, is that something you see a lot of with people, or?
Especially now,
Yeah.
There are so many people who are struggling to not, that don't have joy. They have a vision. They know they want to do this amazing thing in the world. They may be building their business. They may be living their life, but it's just one moment after the other, or looking at the list of to-dos that just takes over rather than actually having a purpose for why they're doing what they're doing. And when you disconnect that meaning from what you're doing,
Yeah.
then it doesn't work right.
Yeah. That's a huge problem. I think that you're right. There's so many people that, was it Thoreau who said so many people live their lives in quiet desperation, and maybe it's because they're missing that joy, and they just, they're slugging their way through things.
Yeah. And
so what do you do? What do you do?
What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, so we got this interesting. We're going through some really interesting times right now with COVID, and people's lives have changed dramatically, in all sorts of ways. And for some, it's not been a joyful experience.
No, and I find all of these dragons that I talk about are within each of us. Now, they may show up more at one point than another, and I've named them. I make it kind of fun because somehow if we talk about, oh, we don't have joy, and then it gets all sad and serious, and we can laugh at ourselves. We can realize that, hey, some of this we might actually be doing to ourselves, and maybe we can shift that.
Yeah.
But do you want me to talk about the dragons?
I do because it's very close to me because as a business person and also as an Ironman triathlete, for me, everything that I do is about how I can shift my emotions, right?
Exactly.
Because sometimes life is really difficult. And so I love I want to hear more about the dragons. Tell us more about the dragons. What are their names? So
the first one is Second Guessing Sally. And she wants you to second guess every decision that you make. or make it really challenging to make the decision in the first place. Like, should I do it? Should I not do it? I don't know. And the next one is No Good Nancy.
Mm.
And No Good Nancy wants you to believe you were not born good enough, even though you were. But she's like, you can't do it.
There's a lot of
Or
whole no good dragons out there, aren't there?
or if you actually succeed in doing something, it's like, oh, you could have done it better. You know, just that awful negative voice that goes on. And the third is Perfect Paula. This one tends to come up a lot, especially if you're recording a video, if you're trying to put out a new book, if you're doing something you haven't done before. And it's like, she wants everything to be just so before she'll do anything, which means nothing happens.
Yeah, right.
And the fourth one is Judging Jenny.
Judging Jenny.
Judging Jenny. And yes, Rich, I know these are all women's names, but as I said, these are my dragons that I'm sharing with the world.
So we could come up with it if we wanted.
You can change the name
different gender. Yeah.
You can have your own names for your own dragons, but these are the ones that I've come up with for myself. Judging Jenny, and it's nothing personal. If you happen to have any of these names, they were just nice alliterations. But Judging Jenny wants you to judge yourself, wants you to judge other people, makes you think other people are judging you. So no matter what's happening, and social media, that is her playground.
Yeah.
Because you see a post and somebody is having fun doing it and you're miserable. Or maybe you're having fun and then you see somebody had a really horrible day or somebody died or something, and it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have fun. It's crazy.
So many people take the social media so seriously. You know, it's a wonderful medium, but yeah, they can really take a lot of what they see or read literally.
Yeah, and Judging Jenny doesn't help in that regard.
Yeah, I bet. So what do you do? You tame. I think there's something about taming those dragons.
There's one more.
Oh, no.
The fifth one is Overwhelmed Ophelia. And yes, you know, she always has you have a really long to-do list and makes you constantly busy with things that really aren't important.
I have a feeling a lot of people have that overwhelmed dragon.
She's one of the most popular.
Yeah.
And she makes you think, you know, you have a badge of honor because I'm so busy. And yes, how do we tame them? They take over. They're just it. Like you said, it's the mindset. It's how you think about them. Telling yourself a better story, living a better story is one of the ways that you can shift it, because what we tell ourselves, the story that we tell ourselves about our lives, what does that mean? What's the meaning that we give to everything that's happened? We can change the meaning. Yeah,
because we really are our own author of our life, right? I mean, stuff happens to us, but we can write that story around those things.
Right. Like something happens, but does that determine the rest of your life? Only if you make it.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, somebody could have something happen and make it mean something really positive.
How did you come up with these? How did you come up with the dragons? How did you come up with the dragon concept?
Well, it was in conversation with somebody, because I was like, okay, these are all these problems. What can we do? You know, how can I talk about this in a way that is just really powerful? And, you know, we were talking about first it was giants, and I'm like, no, that just doesn't sound right. What about dragons? Yeah, dragons. And it's just become a fun, playful way to talk about
Right.
a way, the serious topic of not having our joy, not having the way to live our lives, and what can we do with it that is a little more fun.
So what do you do? Can you give us an example of what would you do if you had, let's take overwhelmophilia. Because I know that sometimes she's right there on my shoulder. What do you do when overwhelmophilia is there?
Well, the first thing is look at what you're doing, and is that really important? And kind of addressing that, because if it's not important, you could have 30 things on your to-do list, but they don't really make any difference.
Yeah, right.
And so that's part of it. But the main thing, and this actually, it works for more than just her, it's to take action. Because somehow if we're sitting and overwhelmed and looking at that long list and I'm not going to do anything, and even, Perfect Paula, any of them, the inaction that happens.
That paralysis, right?
The paralysis,
yeah.
Exactly. And so by actually doing something, anything, and it could be get up and jump up and down, or giggle or laugh or dance around, and then come back to whatever you're working on.
I love that laughter, because I know that's part of your program too, right? Yeah, you do a lot of that.
Intentional laughter, yes, because we don't always have to have something funny. Right. And I know that's a shock to people when I talk.
Right.
It's like, what? I can laugh for no reason? Why not? You just.
So you work with people that have all these dragons and
oh yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's that like? What's that look like?
They are typically having a vision for themselves. They want to be helping other people, and they're struggling. They're getting so up in their heads and not taking the actions they want to be taking because they think they can't, or they want it to be perfect, or they're, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? I worked with somebody who just the other day who had this major decision to make, and she'd been struggling with it for months because she believed she needed to take this particular action, yet it seemed to be affecting her relationship and it seemed to be affecting her health, but she knew it was good for her. And so there was this terrible disconnect.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't know what the answer was for her, but we did an exercise to get her clear and get her aligned, and she was able to make that decision powerfully and feel really confident with the decision she made and move forward.
Wow. So you help people get unstuck. I know it's a simple, kind of maybe a simple.
That's kind of a simple way of saying it, yeah.
But they're not moving forward, or they're not being able to achieve the things that they want to achieve, and so you help them identify, what those dragons are, and then you guys got to work on it together to try to overcome those dragons.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
And get them into action, because often the people that come to me are in some inaction.
Right. You've been working with helping people for a long time, haven't you? With the dragons? How long you've been doing this?
Well, not necessarily with the dragons, but in general, I've been helping people probably since high school.
You're a helper. Got it.
But I did shift careers about 4 years ago and love coaching and doing that full time, because I used to work in IT and I love the analytical part of it. I missed the human connection in that work.
Yeah. I gotta tell you what, I follow you on your Facebook page, and I love the posts that I see there. I mean, sometimes it's just something that changes my emotional state. It's not that I'm in a bad emotion or anything, but oftentimes I'll look at it and it'll bring a smile to my face, or it makes me think. And so I love, and everything's around the dragons, and I just absolutely love what you're doing.
Well, I so appreciate that. Thank you.
So in this show, I always ask what your code is, right? The Iron Mind code, and I know everybody's got one. You can call it a code, or you could call it a formula, or a motto, or something that is successful. And you've come through some tremendous struggles in your life, and to a point where you're really able to take those things and help other people. Do you have a code that you also follow that you'd share with us?
Sure. The principle I have around success, because I know the code is all about what makes you successful. And this isn't my own, and I've heard it from so many people. I don't actually know the origin, and I probably should, but success is 20% strategy and 80% mindset.
Wow.
And you have to have both. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know the steps that you need to take, and you have to be able to be doing it and get out of your own way in order to do that. And so the mindset is huge. And I know you are also all about mindset. And
Absolutely. I haven't quite heard that 80-20 rule used that way. But it is so true. Most people think that if I know how to do X, Y, and Z, that they'll find success or happiness or whatever it is in life. And John Maxwell, leadership author, he's got a book, and he's famous for saying talent is not enough. And I often think about this for people that are in performance. They could be the most talented people in the world, or at the top of their field, but not go anywhere because they don't have that emotional side, that mindset side. And then conversely, you can have somebody who's not quite that talented, but incredibly successful because they believe in themselves. They've got a positive mindset. They know how to tap into that. So that 80-20 is it's really so important. So thank you for sharing that. That's great. That's awesome. Well, I know that that there are a lot of people out there that would probably want to know more about Taming the Dragon, and might want to work with you as well. So how could they do that if someone wanted to contact you and help get unstuck or move forward?
Well, Rich, I have a special gift that I want to give the people that are listening, because I know how important it is to actually tame these dragons and get them under control. So I want to offer a 60-minute strategy session with me. It's a Tame the Dragon strategy session where we'll understand which of the dragons is most prevalent in your life, figure out what you need to do to get through that, and come up with a simple plan. And if it feels like a fit, we could discuss what working together would look like.
Well, what's that cost for folks?
So normally it's valued at $500, but for your audience, I'm giving it as a gift.
You're giving it for free?
I'm giving it as a gift.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. I might want to take advantage of that.
Great.
Well, okay, super. So that's very generous. And so how can they find out about that? How could they contact you for that? Someone wants to take advantage of it.
If you want to take advantage of it, go to myjoydrivenlife.com/rich.
Oh, you got my name in there.
I got your name in there because it's
myjoydrivenlife.com /rich. Yes. Excellent. All right, good. So I'll make sure that is in the notes section for anybody who wants to take advantage of that 60-minute strategy session. It's incredibly generous, Linda. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed hearing more about the dragons, and you're just such a joyful guest. So
well, thank you. It was a delight to be here.
Thanks for listening to the Iron Mind Code Show with Rich Greene. Make sure to visit our website, ironmindcodeshow.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, don't forget to rate the show on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, check us out on Facebook and on Twitter at Iron Mind Code. Join us next time for another edition of the Iron Mind Code Show.